Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and I wonder if this podcast is going to be punctuated by white noise-esque rain, because it is tipping it down where I am.
No way.
To the point where I think I'm having to raise my voice a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Are you not experiencing this inclement weather?
No, I'm about to drive 70-odd miles to Margate after we do the podcast, so I'm hoping I don't get any biblical rain. That won't be very good. Wow. Okay, so there's some real weather, Johnny.
Oh, there's some real weather coming in from the north, so it probably hasn't hit you yet. Oh. But there's snow on the mountains, and there's puddles in Hertfordshire.
Wow. Is there snow on the mountains? Is it a kind of... It was really cold. It kind of got warmer, and then it's got colder again, hasn't it, Johnny?
This is great chat, yeah.
We're on weather chat. We've reached peak Britishness. Such good weather chat, Johnny.
Beer, weather, maybe a bit of politics.
How many millilitres do you reckon per hour you get in Hertfordshire there?
See, now this is, despite wanting to be a weatherman, which I think we've discussed before, I've never quite understood that measurement, because how big's the vessel that we're filling here to work out how many mil? Surely
it's not allowed to collect it in a conical type way.
No.
It should be direct in whatever width the top of it is.
Is it like just a bucket in Michael Fish's back garden?
It should be. Yeah. That'd be fair, right? If you imagine, do you reckon if he didn't get on with his neighbours, they'd just empty the bucket sometimes, or they'd fill it up more?
Maybe that's why he got the call wrong in 1987 with the hurricane, because his friends were messing with his bucket.
Or his non-friends. Or his bucket blew away, Johnny, and he didn't want to tell anyone. And he just sort of said, it'd be all right. I'm sure it was my neighbours I don't get on with. They probably stole it again. The jokers.
Yeah, there's no hurricane. Jokers. My neighbours stole my bucket.
That's it. We've solved it.
Yeah.
We've solved it.
There we go. You're absolved, Michael Fish.
Speaking of solving great mysteries, Johnny.
Oh, yes.
You've been to the land of Egypt. Have you spotted any evidence of ancient alien activity? Did you see any helicopters or spaceships in the hieroglyphs? What are you saying?
Well, I saw exactly that. I went to the temple where that is.
Sick. I was joking, but they are hieroglyphs. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Dendara temple is where... No, wait, it's Abydos, sorry. The Abydos temple where I was headed
that's where they are. Oh, no way.
Yeah, the temple of Seti the First.
So that's the really old one, right? That's like older than the time period between Cleopatra and that.
No. The temple of Seti is very not very modern, pretty modern. Like, I think it's 1,000. Oh my God! If there's an Egyptologist listening, I'm now under pressure. But Middle times, like 1,800 or something like that.
Right.
No, even more recent. So no, that temple's pretty modern. But Abydos itself, all the other stuff around it, is exceptionally old. But if you don't know what Brad's referencing here, it's a couple of hieroglyphs that have been used as, I guess, conspiracy theories to imply that either somebody in ancient Egypt invented the helicopter, or that time travel is possible and a helicopter rocked up, and indeed a spaceship. But the truth of it is, I believe, that it's two hieroglyphs on top of one another. So originally it was one hieroglyph, And then, as happened a lot in ancient Egypt, a later king would come along and be like, I don't want to say that anymore. I want to say something else. And they'd get the scribes to go back in and chisel something else. And then as time has eroded, both of those hieroglyphs have been exposed, and it looks a lot like a helicopter.
Come on, mate. It's exactly an Apache gunship.
I mean, it's pretty close. People give it a Google,
gunship.
And there is a pretty good UFO, a little bit further down the line.
Yeah, it's like there's an Apache gunship, and then to the right of it, there's a super yacht. Looks like a super yacht. And then just below the super yacht, there's a spaceship. A classic sort of spherical, little silver sphere.
The ones
type
that go,
thing. Yeah, like a 1950s spaceship.
Yeah.
I always found that funny that the Scientology spaceships look like B-52 bombers from World War II because...
Well, it's because it was written by Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard was from the era of B-52 bombers.
Yeah.
So, of course, the aliens flew something that looked like a B-52 bomber on whatever... I can't remember what the planet was called. But yeah, it's funny,
and
isn't
they
it?
used
It's all
them
about
to drop,
context.
Was it drop souls into the volcanoes of the earth?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. The phaetons into the volcanoes. We both watched the South Park then.
No, I'm coming. I studied Scientology at university.
Did you?
As a module. Yeah,
when you
so
say
we studied
that,
cults.
do you mean you just went into one of the stress test centres?
I've done one of those as well.
Yeah. I went into one of them.
The one on Tottenham Court Road, yeah.
I went into one of them when I was on a school trip, Johnny. That was definitely illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I guess if you can go to a church, you should be able to go to a church of Scientology. If we're being fair about things.
Maybe. Let's stop being fair, though. I tell you what, other cult-related... Well, not cult, potentially related issue. I watched the Waco TV miniseries and then Waco the Aftermath. The Waco mini TV series is excellent. If anyone is into cults and things like that, it's very good. It is very, very good. It's. I think it's a fair representation, probably, of what happened there, which was an injustice. But yeah, back to helicopters, Johnny. That's definitely a helicopter, mate.
Still not back to beer, but back to helicopters.
Back to helicopters. So, I mean, well, the beer that I saw you posted on Instagram wasn't that much to write home about. You had a can of Stella, mate.
There's not wrong. European Stella,
spelt wrong,
but Egyptian Stella.
Yeah.
There is no craft beer in Egypt, like literally none. There isn't, I don't think, a craft brewery in Egypt.
Well, is there a bar? There's no bar, like a craft beer bar at all or anything?
Nope. There was, so when I was doing some Googling, so I was in Luxor mostly. There seems to have been at some point, there was like a bottle shop with some Belgian beer in, but that had the terrible, the phrase you never want to see on Google Maps, which is permanently closed.
Damn.
Which is, it's a Muslim country, so there's not that many people drinking. Really, it relies on the trade of tourists. And there's sort of two large breweries in Egypt who make a couple of different brands. The biggest is Stella. There's another one called Saqqara, and I think Saqqara also make a beer called Meister, which is like an 8% kind of super tenant style thing.
Tramp juice.
Which they sell it as like, a premium connoisseur's beer. I didn't get to try it. I didn't actually see it anywhere. I only saw Saqqara and Stella. I went to the Winter Palace Hotel, which is where Agatha Christie wrote Death on the Nile, and it's also where Howard Carter, who discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, although technically a boy carrying water discovered it, but he excavated it. He was announcing what was going on the notice board and was staying at the Winter Palace. I went there, and they served my can of Stella in a stonge, in like a long Kolsch style glass.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think because they know of the culture of Cologne. I think because they didn't know what other glass to put it in.
It would get like warm even quicker in a stonge, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cold when I was there. Like at night, it was below 10 degrees.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
In the day, it peaked at 18, 19. because it's winter there. But in summer, that can't be ideal. You'd have to drink it pretty quick. But I'd imagine you do because it's dusty and hot. So I don't know. I didn't hate the stonge. I was kind of like, I'm just going to embrace this. And actually, I got the same in the hotel that I was staying at, a much cheaper hotel about 5 minutes down the road. So they just like small glasses when they drink their lagers. But anyway, that's not the interesting thing about Egypt. That's not why I was there. I wasn't there to drink pretty average macro beer. In fact, not even pretty average, pretty poor. Really.
You were there to debunk or find evidence of ancient aliens and also mummy curses, right? Because I believe wasn't Tutankhamun's site cursed? Loads of people died, didn't they? The people that had gone into it.
No, the truth of it is hardly anybody died.
I mean, everybody dies at some point.
Well, true. Hardly any. So, the curse of Tutankhamun was basically a conspiracy made by a journalist who was pissed off at not being allowed to have the exclusive.
Cool. That's good. I like that. That's good
there
journalistic integrity there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is a list of like 12 people who went into the tomb who died not long afterwards, but all of entirely different causes. Some of them so loosely linked to Tutankhamun that it just makes no sense. It's only once. What is it? Apophenia. Is that looking for patterns where no patterns exist?
Yeah.
It's very much that. But two of the people that went into the tomb right at the start did die of, like, I think it was like of breathing or lung difficulties.
Right.
Which might imply possibly that there was some kind of ancient disease that was locked in there. But
ancient
equally,
asthma.
I'm fairly sure one of them was already very in poor health anyway.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's all kind of a nonsense, but possibly there was something in there that didn't help.
Did you?
I didn't get cursed. I got a tongue ulcer. I don't know whether that could count.
Tongue ulcer. Wow. That's,
yeah.
I think it was the grains of sand getting in your grill and causing abrasions.
I think it was a curse.
Curse of the.
I mean, I
ulcer.
didn't go in Tutankhamun's tomb. My wife actually forbade me from going in.
Toot and tongue moon.
Tongue, yeah. There's something there. We might not find it. But no, I was there. So I did go to Valley of the Kings where King Tut once resided, and visited a couple of those absolutely incredible tombs. Like, one of the most incredible places I've ever been in my life. You know,
okay.
You think, you walk along and you're almost kind of thinking, they've recreated this very well, and you have to kind of pinch yourself and remember this is real, and some of it is, pushing 4,000 years old.
Okay, so Valley of the Kings, Johnny, better or worse than Hill Farmstead?
Oh, better. I mean, I wasn't that enamoured with Hill Farmstead.
No, I know we weren't. Oh, no, it's hype though, isn't it? Better or worse than Allagash?
Oof. Oof. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go to Allagash again. Right, yeah. Valley of the Kings, once you've seen it, you've seen it. Allagash, you never want to stop.
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Is there any more news on? Are we able to get Allagash White over here now? Because it was going to be brought in, wasn't it, by one of our friends?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while. So
too long.
When I messaged you, it was the pre-orders of Allagash. So I presume it will be coming over in the next. Well, when was that? That was just before Christmas, I think I saw that.
Yeah, a Christmas
or maybe
miracle.
Just after Christmas.
Yeah, I think it was.
Imminent arrivals of lots of lovely Allagash.
That is beautiful news to come.
Very exciting news.
Amazing.
But yeah, so really I was there to visit Abydos, which is about 4 hours north of Luxor. I say, well, not 4 hours north. You have to follow the Nile, which goes on this great big curve at that point of the river. So if you went through the desert, it probably wouldn't be as long, but it'd be a very bumpy road. And Abydos is the oldest brewery discovered from the ancient world. And it was built around 3000 BC, so it's over 5,000 years old. And It was bigger than Fuller's.
That's good. It was bigger than Fuller's.
Mm-hmm. In terms of size.
No way. That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy.
And what's really remarkable about it is so at the brewery site and at the temples nearby, Abydos was the original kind of Valley of the Kings. It's where all the very early pre-dynastic and sort of first and second dynastic pharaohs built their funerary temples where people could worship them, and their tombs where they would be prepared for the afterlife. By all of these temples, they found endless shards of pottery from big jars that contained the beer. And they've analysed the beer that was in there. They found it was a pomegranate and star anise 100% wheat beer.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Which sounds like something made by the brewery sort of 10 years ago.
Star anise. Star anise. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So the interesting thing is they found all this pottery of like the servingware where the beer would have been poured, but they have found one cup.
One cup?
Yeah, one drinking vessel.
How are they ancient mystery drinking it, Johnny? This is very exciting development.
You see, so firstly, that one cup, I'm giving away all my book secrets, but that one cup was found in a fermenter. So a brewer had dropped it. It was never used by anybody to drink the beer other than the brewer to taste it.
Yeah.
What they think is, the working theory is, because they don't think it was exported anywhere because they've got the serving pots.
Can I have a go at a theory?
You want to have a stab?
Yeah.
Go on, then.
I know in India today, they still use unfired pottery when they're drinking tea. So they have these little unfired thrown pottery glasses that they use.
I have to Google that after this.
Yeah,
that's bonkers.
It's not that.
Why would they do that?
Because they're disposable. They're one use only. They chuck them. They just chuck them on the floor. They go back down to being clay again. When you've drunk it, you can just reuse them. So it's like glass.
But they know they could just reuse a fired clay one.
But then you're adding to the process of energy being used and everything. They just
I feel there's more to this story.
No. That's
go on.
Basically it. But it's not that then. I'm wrong. Go on then, Johnny. I'm more intrigued now. I thought it was going to be non-fired pottery.
No, the clue is the temples that I dwelled on briefly.
Okay.
So the working theory is that all of the beer produced at this at this brewery, was used in the temples as offerings to the kings and the gods. So it was literally just poured onto the ground and then the pottery tossed out.
That's a lot of... So there's over a fuller's amount of beer being poured onto the ancient gods.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
Basically a beer flood.
Wow.
The issue is they don't know how regularly this brewery would have brewed.
Can you imagine how sticky those floors would be, Johnny?
I know, right?
That's wild.
Proper spoons carpet after New Year's Eve kind of vibes.
Yeah, you definitely... Maybe that's why they didn't have ancient carpet, Johnny. Because it would have got too sodden in all the offerings.
Well, I mean, they had a lot of linen and a lot of cloth. I don't know whether it was on the ground, but maybe that was being used to mop it all up afterwards.
Couldn't have been on the ground, surely. Do you reckon they had that blue paper that's
blue
really
roll.
Great at absorbing the blue stuff, the blue one?
Blue roll, yeah.
Oh, but you're saying blue. I'm hearing Lou roll. Blue roll.
Blue roll.
Yes, yeah. We could have gone
Keeps the
round
hospitality
in
industry going. In fact, weirdly, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's brilliant. Rachel Hendry, one of my favourite writers in the drinks world, she's just published on Vittles, which is a great magazine, a whole article about the impact and history of Blue Roll.
Dude, see, I'm always on the cusp of something. See,
or just behind that curve, just behind
Maybe.
Rachel Hendry.
But I'm not aware of that. Are you aware that there's an Egyptian statue that looks exactly like Michael Jackson? That's an ancient lady Egyptian. Did you know this? Just looking at it.
No,
right
I
now.
mean clearly you and I Google different things when it comes to the ancient Egyptians.
I remembered that, and also he's got that "Remember the Times" or something video where he's like an ancient Egyptian dude.
Oh yeah,
dancing around. But yeah, there's an ancient Egyptian.
Remember
oh, there you go.
We used to talk.
Oh, it's like he's in the room. And then I think that was the first time.
But we're not even in the same room. What do you mean? Has Michael Jackson just walked into your room?
Yeah. Well, no, I'd be terrified if he had.
Yeah.
I think that was the most. I think that might have been the most expensive music video at the time. I think it had Eddie Murphy in it, from memory, and I think it was the first time they used morphing in a music video. Because doesn't he morph or like faces morph or something?
I just remember the song.
Maybe that's black and white. I can't remember. One of them, their faces morphing, which is like, whoa. It's
black or white. He's on the Statue of Liberty, isn't he? In a shirt blowing in the wind.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't remember any morphing in that one.
No, maybe it's not. I can't remember. There's morphing in one of these guys. Mighty Morphin Michael Jackson's.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, so I didn't actually get to see the brewery, which after all that travel was a bit of a shame, but I knew that was going to happen because they have to bury it between seasons to protect it.
They bury it, so they dig it up every year and then bury it again.
Yeah, well, not every year, sadly. So this year they didn't because when they do a huge dig like this, because obviously it's a huge site and there's a lot of new stuff to discover. It's very much like the bleeding edge of archaeology in Egyptologist terms. You know, it's a very important site. They're learning brand new things, and so it's done with huge care and on huge scale. And it's often done by a lot of like PhD students and stuff who come over. Anyway, the University of New York that is running the dig didn't want to send a bunch of young, enthusiastic people to what is very close to a war zone. So they're not digging it up this year. So I didn't actually get to see it, but I did get to meet the head archaeologist who discovered it and is sort of the main thinker about it. And we had a walk around the site and saw the one remaining temple that sort of vaguely stood. It's a ruin rather than rubble.
Interesting.
And chatted to him. We had quite the adventure finding him because the Abydos Brewery is not sort of in town. So I was at the Temple of Seti with a guide, going around all of that, and at the end of the tour, I was messaging the archaeologists and being like, "Where are you?" Thinking that it would just be around the corner, and the signal let me down. So my guide just went up to a policeman with a machine gun and was like, sorry, the guide didn't have the machine gun, the policeman did, and was like, "Do you know where the Americans are doing their dig?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll show you." And so I walked off into the desert with a machine gun toting policeman, and my guide was just like waving me off, just like, "I'm going to go to the cafe, bye."
Oh, blimey.
Which was pretty unnerving. Anyway, turns out it was some different Americans at a different site. So I had to come walking back, and then they drove me to the site, and then they couldn't get any further because of all the sand. So we then had to walk the last sort of 10 minutes again to this site. So it was actually a little bit Indiana Jones, you know?
Sounds it. Apart from
a lot
the cafe.
Of needless weapons for archaeological sites.
Your tour guide going off to the cafe sounds a bit more Skegness than Indiana Jones, but yeah. Apart from that, it sounds very, very indie. What was your guide's name?
Garda.
Good name.
Garda. Ghada. Camel.
Lady
a little bit too close to camel.
Was it a man or a lady?
A lady.
Lady Garda. Like Lady Gaga, yeah? Sweet.
No.
Kind of. That's
Kinda.
cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
So if anybody's thinking of going to Egypt, well worth it. And I would also heartily recommend, not many tourists do it because it's a long way to go, but there are tours running out of Luxor to Dendera and to Abydos. Both are absolutely stunning temples in incredible condition compared to like Karnak and Luxor temples, which are the famous ones in Luxor. Like those are ruins that have been rebuilt, and you can see quite a lot of the decoration in the statues, and they're kind of biblical in scale, but aren't in that good condition. Particularly Dendera, like even the colouring of the main halls is I'd say about 30-40% there. It's just breathtaking when you walk in. I cannot describe. I'm going to use a word, the numinous, which means like.
Say it again. What word? What's the word?
The numinous.
The numinous.
Yeah.
The numinous.
Yeah. It means feeling the presence of God. A sense of incredible awe.
Is it the numinous, are you saying, or is it two words? Is that
two words?
Word?
That
right,
pretty
numinous.
Common word. Yeah, you feel the numinous. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, cool. Presence of God, eh?
It's pretty magical. So I heartily recommend going to Luxor. Heartily recommend getting a guide because it means you get hassled less by people trying to be your guide, and you get lots of information because the museums, like when you go to a museum or a historical site in most countries, there'll be loads of information on boards, or there'll be like an audio tour. None of that. So, like walking around like Luxor and Karnak Temple, some of the most incredible, famous archaeological sites in the world, some of the most visited tourist attractions in the world. And it's mostly just like Americans walking around understanding nothing because there's just no information. It's just like, yeah, here's another spellbinding, incredible piece of art, and we're going to tell you absolutely nothing about any of it. It's just a statue. So get a guide.
Get a guide. Did you walk around saying, not in the museum, but out of the museum, this belongs in a museum? From that's Indiana Jones, famous.
The thing is, though, like, I mean, in his context, yes, it probably did belong in a museum, but really, it belonged where it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I agree with Indy on that particular.
Museums like
philosophy.
zoos, Johnny, where we shouldn't have to put animals in zoos.
Well, I
they
think
should
it's more
be
that
able to live out in the wild if we weren't destroying the wild.
They sort of tend to end up in other countries' museums. We have a lot of stuff in the UK that we shouldn't, including Luxor and Karnak. There's obelisks and there's statues everywhere, obviously, but there's never you go through a gate and there should be 2 statues or 2 obelisks. There never is because the Egypt government of old kept giving them to other people. So, when we were doing the tour, it was like, here's one obelisk, the other one is on the North Bank of London, or the other one is in the Louvre, or everything. Like, why were they just giving away these things?
Were they giving it away? I feel like we all just pilfered it. Like, we pilfered most of the stuff.
As far as I could tell from the stories of my guide, no, they were presents.
Really?
Yeah.
Too generous. Far too generous.
Yeah.
Short-sighted.
I probably there was some kind of coercion involved, but generally I think it seems that the government were not very good at caring for it. And also, modern Egyptian culture didn't really care or understand what they had for quite a long period of history. It was only when, the British and, I guess mostly the British came over and started digging these things up. And they were, there's still housing projects going on with the Egyptian government where they're having to move people, literally move them out of their houses, knock down the houses and dig underneath because we know that, Abydos, this is what's happening. We know that there is 5,000-year-old funerary temples and incredible things to be found, but people have just built on top of them. Even when there's an obelisk jutting out the sand, they've been like, oh, that's weird, I'll build a house next to it.
Sounds sensible.
Yeah, so there's, I think, a lot of political toing and froing around undoing some of the damage that's been done to these archaeological sites, and hopefully looking after the people that have probably lived in those houses for a long time. So it's a bit tricky.
Yeah.
But yeah, heartily recommend a trip to Luxor. Direct flights on Mondays. I recommend the direct flights. The indirect flight via Cairo was not ideal.
Okay.
So stay for a week, and that would be about the right amount of time, I think.
You kept tagging in Dig Abydos. Is that one individual guy, or is that an organisation?
That's the team that are digging the Abydos. Okay. They're the North Abydos archaeological team, so that's where the brewery and the funerary temples are.
Did they get in early with the name then, with that Dig Abydos? It should be Dig North Abydos.
I don't know, actually. Maybe Dig North Abydos is too long a... Oh, no, because we're Craft Beer Channel.
But our name's too long as well, to be honest.
Maybe they're hoping they'll eventually take over the whole place.
Right, okay.
It's an ambitious username on Instagram.
What's
worth a follow, that Instagram as well.
Who's the Indiana Jones looking fella that you were out with from time to time?
That's Dr. Matthew Adams. He is the
good name,
field director.
I like his name. Did he have like a shortened name, like a kind of indie type name that he called himself? Did he have swagger, Johnny? Most archaeologists that have studied archaeology don't actually get to be archaeologists. There aren't that many jobs going, right? So he must be quite good, or have quite a lot of indie swagger to him to have got the actual job, right?
Well, I mean, he's world renowned.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So, whenever I was doing research on it, and all these different books that I've bought and endless different academic papers, he's quoted everywhere.
Right. Which
must create some internal swagger. He had no swagger. He had a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah. That's good. Enthusiasm goes a long way.
Really, 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 really loves his job.
Yeah.
And that was infectious and exciting to be around. And he did dress like a modern Indiana.
Yeah. Did he have some more technical wear? Was he wearing cotton and linen, do you think?
I mean,
he had to surmise him.
He was wearing a lot of cotton and linen. Obviously,
Desert
Egyptian
boots?
cotton, very famous.
Desert boots, or were they more like modern shoes?
Oh no, he had like walking
Solomons or whatever they're called on his feet.
God, I just like walking boots that you'd get from blacks or from.
I'm sure they were better
millets.
than that. It was. I reckon he was. Is he a Gorp Core protagonist? Do you know what Gorp Core is, Johnny?
No.
So we had Norm Core. Gorp Core is wearing like technical wear as streetwear,
okay.
which is now the big thing, right? So wearing like Arc'teryx and all this sort of, I guess Patagonia and North Face and stuff like that. It's come from that, but it's elevated to like Arc'teryx and.
No, he's very much in the Patagonia North Face.
Yeah.
Group.
So he is a Gorp. He's a Gorper then. He is a Gorper. He likes to Gorp at things. He's a Gorp Core wearer. He's Dr. Gorp. There you go.
Man, I hope he doesn't listen to this. Yes.
Sounds
anyway,
great.
he was great, and I learned a lot and got some great anecdotes and lots of great information for the book. It's the first chapter, so it needed to come out with a bang, you know? So when I learned I couldn't go to the brewery, I was like, I still need to go, because also the book is about how beer made us, not how we made beer. So the fact that the brewery's there is very interesting, but actually it's everything that the brewery helped build that was fascinating, and that stuff had been dug up. So
can you imagine, Johnny, if they're building a brewery just dedicated to the gods, right? Then they obviously knew about brewing. They had brewing in their society. There must be other breweries. There must be bigger breweries that served actual living folk as well, presumably.
Well, no, because in ancient culture, people brewed their own beer. It was part of the kitchen duties. So there are other breweries around, and there's even older breweries, actually. There's 2 breweries that have been found that are older than Abydos in Egypt. Significantly smaller, though. So, you know, the kind of the miraculous quality of this brewery is that that it exists at all when the needs were sated in the kitchens of most common folk, and B, the sheer scale of it, and then thirdly, the fact that we don't think they really drank any of it.
Sounds totally wild. So, Johnny, they had no hops. Did you say star anise and wheat? Is that what
that's
you said,
how they
right?
introduce sort of bitterness and tannins and spice and
so
stuff.
When are we going to make our Abydos brew, which we should at some point do?
Well, indeed. I mean, I think we do it as part of the marketing for the book.
Nice. Craft Beer Channel marketing for your book. I like it, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm in.
It's going to be good content. I mean, we'll probably get a commercial brewery to make it rather than do it in the studio.
Well, we know... Oh, this leads on nicely now, Johnny. We know a brewery that is obsessed with ancient Egyptian iconography, names, all the rest of it, Johnny. It's only bloody Omnipollo.
I was messaging Carl while I was out there, yeah.
Yeah, I could see he was loving every photo and stuff, everything you were putting up. Carl loves that shit, doesn't he? He's all over it. From his drawings of ancient mirrors to actually naming fermentation tanks, I believe, after ancient gods. Really cool stuff.
And he uses the Ankh symbol a lot.
He does.
The Nile symbol, which is that sort of crinkly line.
Yeah.
So he uses hieroglyphics quite a bit. I don't know whether there's lactose in the ancient Egyptian beers. So I don't know whether Omnipollo would touch it, but we can but ask.
We can lactose it up for sure.
No, I don't think that's
maybe with some goat.
I think
milk.
if we're gonna make an Egyptian beer, we shouldn't shove lactose in it.
No, maybe not.
Although to be fair, it wouldn't have been very well fermented, so it might have been quite sweet. But we could just do that by brewing badly.
We could.
Actually, it'd be really hard because grain's so well modified these days. Anyway, yes, we're gonna brew a pomegranate and star anise 100% wheat with rice hulls so that we don't get stuck. Mash at some point on this channel for sure. But yeah, that was my Egyptian trip. That was the last trip of the book. I finished version 1 of the first chapter yesterday, so that the book is 1% from being finished.
Wow, that's very exciting. Congratulations,
very exciting.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that 1% might take a little while, but we'll get it there. Shall we talk about this week's video, which involves? I know you tried to make the link, and I took us away from it again. But Omnipollo,
Omnipollo. Yeah, we love these guys, don't we? They are brilliant as ever. I was obviously very overexcited in the video, Johnny, watching it.
But it was joyous to see. Everybody loved it.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Infectious again, like Dr. Gorp.
Yeah, defo. Didn't have any Gorpwear on that day, I don't think. But
no, that was another incident of you wearing highly prized clothes.
Oh yeah,
in a brewery. Which I need to remind you before every shoot: don't put anything you care. Like I dress for brewery tours in the same way that I dress for like DIY, whereas you rock up in Ralph Lauren.
Going to be on camera, mate.
But nobody's looking. Well, maybe they're looking at you for the fashion. They're not looking at me for the fashion.
You wait till we, this season. Gorpcore, Johnny. We're going to go real on heavy.
I can't afford Gorpcore.
You've already got it. You got your Trespass jacket or whatever it is. Is it Trespass? Tog 24. Tog 24.
Is it Tog 24 is not that expensive.
No, I know. I'm mocking slightly. No, I'm not mocking. I don't mean mocking, but it's technical wear, isn't it?
Is it? I think it's just like a lifestyle brand from the lakes, isn't it?
Is it a lifestyle brand? Could we call it a lifestyle brand?
It's not a proper.
But do you know what? If you're out,
it's like really nice fat face, mate.
Really nice fat face. That's saying something, isn't it?
I wear quite a lot of fat face. They make okay stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not dissing fat face. I just don't think they got a very good name.
You are. Oh well, yeah,
it's a very good name. The name's not good. It doesn't inspire me. Fat face sounds like a skate brand, and it's not a skate brand.
No, well, it sort of came out of that era, didn't it? Like weird fit, like surf. Was it surfing? I think, like with weird fish and Billabong and all that lot.
Oh yeah, Billabong.
But now fat face has gone very much like sort of slightly bougie.
So did it come out of the surf scene? Is that a fact, or are we just guessing?
No, I don't know the exact origins, but that's what I associate it with. Those sort of 90s surf brands. That were a little bit less skatey and a little bit more kind of bougie, wet hair, Cornwall vibes.
Oakley O'Neill's. Well, actually, Oakley wasn't, was it? But O'Neill's.
No, but O'Neill's, yeah, very much in that vibe.
What you just said the other one a minute ago as well. Body Glove. They made swim thingy suits.
Body Glove.
Body Glove. They made like surfing tops and things like this. But yeah. Right. Interesting.
Anyway, Omnipollo, Omnipollo.
Okay,
Omnipollo.
Go on then. We're surfing straight into the wave of pastry wave. Go on then.
The pastry wave. Yes. So this week's video was us brewing the upscaled and much improved version of Brad's Breakfast, which was our cinnamon, vanilla, and coffee pastry stout that we brewed in collaboration with Omnipollo back in 2022. We chose that recipe because it was the more successful of the two pastry stouts. It worked really, really well, although we didn't get enough cinnamon out of it. And it turns out, as we learned in this week's video, that it's because we used expensive cinnamon.
Yeah, we screwed it. We screwed the peach with the cinnamon there.
When it comes to cinnamon, when people think of what cinnamon tastes and smells like, they're thinking of cheap cinnamon. And because we bought expensive cinnamon, we weren't getting what we were expecting from it. So cheap cinnamon, expensive coffee, and expensive vanilla is the way to go.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny, though, isn't it? It's the mix of high and low, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's all really down to expectation, isn't it? A lot of flavors, and when we like them, it's partly because of what we're expecting to get out of it. Your palate doesn't love being entirely surprised, and we got quite earthy. I would say almost like black tea vibes out of our cinnamon, and that is not what we wanted.
No, it was very expensive as well, wasn't it?
And it was very expensive, yeah. So we learned something there, and we learned a huge amount about malt as well. It was really interesting, Henok having two different kinds of roasted malt in there. Always putting DRC in, although he's not looking for raisin, he's just trying to layer complexity. What was really interesting, and I didn't really pick up on it when we were doing the interview, is his constant referral to, like, we're not barrel aging this, so we have to get complexity in another way. And I would, like, the Brit in me editing that and reading that back was like, we can get complexity without barrel, Henoch. You know, like he's sort of saying it like you need the barrel in these big beers. You don't necessarily. I feel like, I don't know, I see a barrel as an adjunct. It's like, here's some additional flavour, whereas he sees it as an integral part of any dark beer. So I don't know whether they've ever released an Imperial Stout that hasn't. But, well, no, actually, Noah, their core beer, I don't think sees a barrel. But clearly, he looks down on an Imperial Stout that hasn't seen the inside of a barrel, which is interesting.
He is, isn't it?
And not really my approach.
No. He does seem to know what he's doing, though, doesn't he? If we're honest.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is to say nothing about the quality of his beer. It's more about the this is what you'd probably call a brewing philosophy.
Yes.
There's probably brewers out there that don't like putting their beers in barrels because it distracts from the complexity they've gained from the malt, hops, and yeast. Whereas he's very much the opposite. He's like, I need to brew this beer in preparation for being in barrel because that is the end goal of every beer that I make. And that's what happened to at least half of the batch, more than half of the batch that we actually brewed that day. Some of it, I think, was going into barrel. No, some of it was being fresh beer that was going to be blended with a barrel-aged beer. That was what they did with the rest of the batch. Everything he brews has a barrel in mind, basically, when it's that big stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that you're brewing towards some it's a lofty goal, isn't it, to put everything in barrel that's big. So I like that. It's not like we got a barrel program. It's like we are barrel. I am barrel. Yeah. I am barrel. Yeah.
I enjoyed your interview with him. I enjoyed that beer you were drinking at the time. It was a real shame I had to cut that interview back quite a bit to get the video remotely within spec. But it was a nice, long, and interesting chat that, I don't know, maybe we could find a way to get the editor's cut out.
Oh, nice. Whenever we go to Omnipollo, it's always like a wealth of content, isn't it? We record so much stuff because they're both so great. Henoch is masterful in everything he talks about in terms of brewing and
generous and honest as well. You know, he won't skip over questions or dodge them. He'll go deep in all of them.
He's very open. I think that speaks of the confidence in their ability that they're like, yeah, we do it like this. It's like, I'm going to tell you how I do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can do it.
But I think it's also their approach. You know, if they were very closed and guarded, as a contract brewery that brews a lot of beer at other breweries, that would be a bit of a contradiction, I guess. It's like, we want to use your equipment and knowledge, but we don't want to give you ours. So his approach is very much, there's some things I might not tell you. He wouldn't tell us, say, the origin of that black malt, the American black malt, but he told us the origin of all of the other malts. He was like, but this is my special sauce. And I think it was in your interview with him where you talked about that, and he said, he has ultimate respect for anybody that wants to keep a couple of things secret. That you've worked on, but otherwise, it's great to be open.
I think there is. I know there's something. There's something in a little bit of mystery as well, isn't there, Johnny? There's a bit of magic in the mystery. So
indeed,
I like holding back a little bit. If you put it all out there, Johnny, where's the thrill? Where's the thrill?
Exactly. That is
something...
why Belgian beer is seen as so mysterious, because the Belgian brewers are the masters at holding back the most important bit of information, which I've learned to my cost so many times in making films and articles. Did you find any comments that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I did. I thought, it was really nice. Everyone was very kind about, the video and said we look like we're having a great time. But obviously the most important thing to chat about here is bounty bars and bringing coconut flavour.
That's the comment I picked out as well.
Oh, no, okay. All right. Well, maybe I shouldn't talk about that. I've got another comment.
No. I wanted you to talk about it. That's why I picked it out. Because, well, firstly, I just want to say, bounty bars are the worst in all those selection boxes. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the texture that's the issue. The flavour is delicious.
Well, so Daiki Det Belisi says, I'm with Brad. Bounty bars are the worst. The carling of the chocolate aisle. And I like that he's spelt it aisle like an island.
Oh, yeah.
Is that how you spell aisle, as in a supermarket?
No, you need an A at the start, yeah.
Right.
But the chocolate aisle sounds like a great place to be.
I want to go there. Sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm with you there, Daiki Tbilisi.
I'm glad you went in for a second try.
Yeah. James Churchill followed that up with bounty is fine if you want to chew on the same thing for hours.
He's not wrong.
The texture is odd, isn't it, as well?
Kind of like sawdusty.
And then Daiki Tbilisi came back to that. It tastes like a copy of Daily Mail that has been shredded and dipped in thin chocolate. The texture is somehow both too wet and too dry.
Yeah. He's nailed it.
It's too wet, it's too dry. I don't like the texture of it. The flavour, I'm not a coconut boy. And there's not enough chocolate on it. So the ratios are off.
Did you try the toasted coconut that I had?
Yeah. It was really good.
It was just incredible.
Didn't taste like a bounty bar, Johnny.
Tasted like
bounty bar.
Brown, buttery, coconutty.
It transforms
brown, toasty.
the flavour, right? When you toast it, I think that's the difference. It brings new levels of complexity to the thing. So yeah, toasted coconut's all right by me.
Good.
Just
I'm glad we agree. We should also. I mean, I realise that you've edited out Michael Annette's 5839 saying bounty bars are the absolute greatest.
Oh yeah,
Bit of editorialising there, Bradley.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was a bit one-sided there. didn't want an opposing opinion, did I, Johnny? Come on. Yeah.
So some people do.
He's obviously a fanatical fringe lunatic. Michael.
Do you know what I like most about this? Yeah. This little conversation that started is, I reckon James Churchill and Daiki Tbilisi might be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you thought they were me, like fake profiles.
He's setting up all these accounts to smear bounty bars,
smearing bounty, defamatory against.
They'd be
bounty.
A hard thing to smear because they're so dry.
I wouldn't like trying to smear a bounty bar on anything. I think even if you heated it up on your car bonnet, you know, in Death Valley, it probably wouldn't slide off. It might slide off, but it would the actual brick of the bounty bar would remain. Yeah, it would just sort of
dry out and shrink, wouldn't it?
And there's not enough chocolate for it to slide all the way down the bonnet. It'd make it half the way.
Yeah.
Run out of chocolate lubrication, and then just fry
Crisp
on
up.
your bonnet and turn into
like an Egyptian mummy,
like an Egyptian mummified brick of is it high in fiber? What is it a good fibrous thing to be eating? I suppose it is if it's real coconut, right? It's probably.
I don't know
really
about the fiber content of coconut. It's very high in
coconut
polysaturated fats. Which one's the good one?
Yeah.
Not monosaturated. Good fats, like avocado and other ones.
Right, it's high in those.
It might be fibrous. I mean, certainly the fibers on the outside probably are. I don't know about the white stuff inside.
Yeah. Coconut juice, coconut water. That
disgusting.
Was real trendy for a while, wasn't it?
I think
it's backed off
ticks
a bit.
along. Yeah, it has backed off a bit. When we were at Jamie's, everyone was drinking coconut water, and it's disgusting.
Yeah,
slightly salty, green. Oh, I had two guides. I had another guide. Shout out to Mike, who he took me to a local place to get sugarcane juice.
Oh yeah, nice.
So while we were driving to Abydos, it's sugarcane harvest season in the Nile Valley at the moment, and like just wherever you go, there'd be like kids just chewing on giant sticks of sugarcane.
Oh wow.
So he went into this little corner store and they blend it fresh for you. One of the sweetest things I've ever tasted.
Yeah.
Bright green.
Yeah, wow.
Hazy as hell.
Yeah.
Like really, really sweet, but also kind of like spinach flavour. Very weird.
Spinach flavour? I don't know. It sounds a bit vegetal.
Like, yeah, it was very green. Green in colour, green in flavour, you know, like a very young double IPA. I wouldn't say I loved it, but it was a nice experience to have had.
I
also had some of the best falafel I've ever had.
I can imagine
Abydos.
It was very good falafel. Was this in the cafe?
It was from not from that cafe. It was from my guide Garda for Abydos.
Lady Gaga.
Like we were driving back, and she was like, because because I'd been out in the desert with a guy with a machine gun, we were running very much behind time, and we were supposed to go to a restaurant. She's like, we don't have time. We'll go to this cafe that I know makes great falafel. And like Egyptian falafel, Mike said they call it green burgers, and it's like very moist pea, like green pea and beans that they blitz up, coat, and then deep fry. Ooh. So it's really soft and moist and salty and fresh and, kind of pea flavored.
Pea fritter
and then
vibes.
I had it. Yeah, kind of pea fritters,
yeah.
but smoother and softer. Then they served it with fried plantain, I guess fried banana, because they don't grow plantain, they grow straight up bananas in the Nile Valley, and like a sort of a kind of umami, covered in some kind of umami, like maybe what's sesame oil called? Sesame tahini. Tahini-coated aubergine in a delicious moist wrap. It was so good.
They've probably been to Margate, right? Because they do, at Pete's Fish Factory, they do a deep fried mushy pea fritter, I believe.
Right.
Sounds like that. It's basically the same, right? That's what you're describing there, Johnny.
I guess. I don't know whether they need to go to Margate to get that inspiration, given that all the ingredients I mentioned are all grown in the Nile Valley.
Oh, come on, Johnny.
I think it might be a case of them independently to the fish shop.
Who did it first? I mean, Pete's been around since the 1970s, Johnny, so, it's quite
Yeah, Egypt's
historic.
a little bit older. It's the oldest country in the world, first nation state.
Is it? I thought Iraq was, but I mean, not Iraq as in called Iraq, but ancient Mesopotamia or whatever.
Oh, that's a very different country. That wasn't a country.
No, I know.
Region. That was a region. So the first nation state that had borders and a single ruler
was
Egypt. Yeah which was in 3000 BC. It was your boy Namer who built the brewery, United Egypt, in around about 3000 BC.
Nike Namers, getting a pair of them this season for Gorpcore. Yeah, they're very, very good in the desert, Nike Namers. Yeah, good stuff.
We're back there.
Yeah,
right. Well, so if you haven't watched that video, obviously there'll be a link in the descriptions. I say obviously, sometimes I forget. So hopefully, I'm going to say hopefully there'll be a link to the video in the descriptions. My book, The Meaning of Beer, is out in November, and you'll hear all of those stories and more when that finally comes out. We have the second... what's the word? Second segment?
Yeah, second half. Is it
second
a half?
half?
Yeah,
it's a half. Second half of our Omnipollo adventure coming out next week, and obviously another podcast. And Brad and I have a shoot day booked in next week in which we are filming the next of our Trappist episodes.
Oh, exciting, isn't it? I'm really
very
pumped for this.
About.
100%, man. Yeah.
3 extraordinarily rare beers. Some footage from the monastery itself will be going in. It's going to be a great episode. So that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks as well. Otherwise, that's all we've got time for this week. All that's left to say is beer and love. No, wait.
Love and beer.
The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/thecraftbeerchannel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food, and homebrewing. Love and beer.